Hey, Gardener Nicole here, and I'm going to show you how to make oven fried okra. So as you can see here, I have some okra here that my boys just harvested from the garden, and these are good okra to harvest because they're small. Actually, hold on just a second. This is not okay, so let me give you a comparison. Tiny equals tender, big equals rough, and it's really hard. Even when I'm squeezing, it's pretty hard. This one is really soft. So don't use this. And typically when you open these up, A, they'll be hard to cut, and B, the seeds inside are typically brown or black. You can save these, dry them out, and get the seeds out to plant more okra plants later. So let's put that to the side. I'm going to cut off the ends and the other end, and just slice them up and put them into my bowl. Don't slice them too thick, don't slice them too thin. And I like to put my ends either beside the cutting board, or I actually have this little shelf in here where I can put things in, but I'm not using that today. And so then I can just brush it right off my counter when I'm done, easily be able to dispose of the trash, and then I'll have to pick up my great big cutting board. A lot of things I have in my kitchen for cooking, my dad actually purchased, including this cutting board. And the cool thing about this cutting board, maybe I'll have another opportunity to show you guys about it, is that when you flip it over, it has little triangles all across it, little peaks, where you can put meat in, and it kind of holds it still. So one of these days I'll flip this over for you guys. Now just so you know, it's kind of like that at home situation. I already had some other chopped okra in here, so just in case you're watching like, wait a minute, how did that bowl get so fast? I know. Oh, actually I forgot one, so let me chop this one up really quickly for you. Got into the trash when you're not supposed to. So after you chop up the okra, you need to have something on it. I'm going to use 1 egg. And as you see in my egg carton, I have all the empty eggs. I always save my eggs, and then when I get done, I crunch them up and throw them in the garden. I think I posted an article or a response about this last year. They really can't, and these are the people who study these things, they can't prove or necessarily disprove is if eggs help in the garden. I say since it doesn't hurt, and many gardeners talk about how great it is, I am just going to keep doing that. All I'm doing is just stirring the egg around in the bowl here for you guys to see. And if all your okra is not getting coated, then you can put in another egg. But honestly, I think these are all getting pretty coated from the 1 egg that I'm using, because I can still see part of the egg at the bottom. It's super important to make sure that you're coating the entire okra, because if you don't, the coating won't stick. So typically I end up leaving this in the bowl for a couple of minutes, because if you're cooking involves multitasking. So typically I'm not just frying up okra in the oven, I'm cooking meat, and I'm cooking rice, and I'm cooking some other things. So typically they end up staying in the bowl for a couple of minutes because I'm doing something else. But for the purposes of you guys, that's not gonna happen. Well, I'll be in there for a little bit. So your other thing you'll need is a bag, and you'll need some breadcrumbs. A lot of times my favorite breadcrumbs are panko breadcrumbs, and I mix them in with my own seasoning, but the store had panko breadcrumbs. They had breadcrumbs with already Italian seasoning in them, so that's what I got, because I'm always about catching a sale. So I'm gonna pour my breadcrumbs into my bag. That should be enough. Going to put my okra into the bag. Just like if you know how to make fried green tomatoes, same situation. And then close the bag. And we'll do some shake, shake, shake. So all I'm doing is shaking this up. I like to use plastic bags because, I don't know about you, I learned how to make fried green tomatoes when I was a kid. And sometimes what happens with a paper sack is that the paper sack will tear because it's getting moist from the moisture from inside of the tomato. And ever since, you know, once I got older and had more autonomy over what tools I got to use, I just use a plastic bag. And because you can close it and just toss it upside down. With the paper sack, you know, had to grab it at the neck and shake it and help the bottom break. Not a good time. But if you see here, you can see like all of the okra is coated and is sticking. So the next step will be to take a cookie sheet. I always put aluminum foil on my cookie sheet to save myself time. Spray it, and then you'll stick it in the oven on 425 from anywhere. I do between 16 and 20 minutes. I start checking it around 16 minutes to see if it's crisp enough. If it's crisp enough, I take it out. If not, I'll leave it in for a couple more minutes. So I will be back to show you the final product. So I have my sheet. I already sprayed it with my olive oil spray. And if you don't have the olive oil spray, just dab a little bit of olive oil on the sheet and just, you know, spray it around with a little paper towel or something. Then you want to make sure you spread these out, because if they're crowded, the heat doesn't get to it to cook it evenly and to crisp it up. And then you're going to put this in the oven on 425. I know right now that my oven says 400 because I had something else in there that was cooking at 400, but it'll be at 425 in no time. Now I'm going to stick this in here for 16 to 20 minutes. So we will be back once they are done. And I guess I'll bring it up a little closer for you so you can see what it looks like. Yep. So welcome back. I'm getting them out of the oven so you can see. And if you see, they actually crisp up just like they would if they were on the stove. So what I like to do at the very end, when they are hot, I like to take some sea salt and just sprinkle it over it. And if you want to put a dash of pepper on there, do that too. But hopefully you learned a quick way to fry in the oven. I feel like it's healthier and it's less mess, because who wants to use so much oil to fry something on the stove and then have to wait for the oil to cool off to get rid of the oil and all that drama, when you can just spray a cooking sheet, lightly coat it, and let it crisp up in the oven. So remember, anybody can be a gardener. You just have to get ready, get set, and grow.